Hey there everybody, this is Don Evans for WatchReport.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Kentex Marineman. Kentex is a brand I had never heard of before up until a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine who is actually a dealer for many different brands had been in touch with them, and he pointed me in their direction, and that was when I started talks with them about possibly reviewing one of their models. They are completely made in Japan. The owner of Kentex used to work for Seiko for 20 years and as one of their designers. And with that, you'll see some influences of Seiko here in the watch. As I said, this is the Marineman. This version is 44 millimeters. It has a black mother of pearl dial. It has a dark green ceramic bezel, which at first I gotta tell you, when I heard what model he would be sending me, I didn't know what I was gonna think of it in person, because I just was thinking, well, dark, green ceramic and a black mother of pearl, and I'm personally not the biggest fan of mother of pearl, but somehow it does work. I have to say this does work. It is just about 14 millimeters thick. The movement is the Seiko NH35 automatic movement, and the price on this is 780 USD. Now, being completely upfront, the price of this watch with that movement is what 99% of the you watch guys out there are going to find and say that is very high priced for this movement. I do not disagree. I can't disagree with that. And if I did disagree with that, I'd be lying. These days, we are seeing the Miyota 9015 has definitely jumped up in price. You know, you're seeing watches these days between $600, $700, $800, $850. I've seen some for $1,000 using the Miyota 9015. So these days, it's not rare to, it's not as rare to see that. The days of, I mean, not that you can't get a Miyota 9015 for $400, but a lot of brands have definitely jumped up in price watches that using that movement. So the NH35, which is a very good movement, by the way, but there's brands out there you can get it for 150, 200 bucks. So what is making this watch $780? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick look at it here. Like I said, you do have a mother of pearl dial. There are other versions of this that do not have mother of pearl. They have more, matte finish dials or texture dials. So there are different versions of the Marineman. But it is a very nice black mother of pearl dial. Give you a good look at it there. You have the very large arrow second hand, or arrow minute hand. You also do have an arrow second hand as well. The second hand is red. You have the large applied markers with the lume paint on it. There you'll see made in Japan down at the bottom. You do have a magnifying, date cutout, or date wheel, or excuse me, a magnifier on the date wheel, which is also sapphire. You are going to see my reflection in this. This is extremely, extremely high polished. Take a look at the other side here. You have your signed crown. Take a look at the bracelet. You'll see it is all satin finished, and you'll see the little inside part of the links here is high polished. This the center section is also raised. Now, I hope you can pick this up on camera and take a look at how well finished this watch is between the brushed finish, the high polish. Take a look at the case back here, which is a fantastic case back. This is a completely, engraved and machined case, case back here. You have your seahorse logo. Now, that is where I compare this to Seiko. And I will compare this to some high-end Seikos, not, just your, $400 or $500 Seikos. As a matter of fact, now, first things first, I want to say out of the way. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to compare this exactly to, many different Seikos or high-end Seikos. They say this is as good as, but I find very similar characteristics. For instance, the bracelet. If you take a look at the Seiko Marine Master, you will see the bracelet is very, very similar, both in look, style, the polished and brushed finishes. There's a lot of different elements here. The bracelet and the case polishing and finishing are very reminiscent of a lot of high-end Seikos that I have seen. The design overall, though, I wouldn't necessarily look at it and call it a Seiko. The type of case, the crown, and the bezel and everything are, kind of remind you more of a lot of the different micro divers and brands out there these days. Like I said, you have an NH35 movement. You have a mother of pearl dial. You do get a sapphire crystal here. The bezel is ceramic. You get a awesome machine case back. The bracelet is beautiful. As with a lot of Seiko watches, the bracelet is thin. It is completely solid. The end links are solid, but it is thin. I haven't put my calipers to this yet. Let's see, maybe we'll do that here real quick. And let's see what we got here. Just about, well, I moved that. Just about 3.3 millimeter stick. But it is very solid, and it's nice on the case. The watch is balanced out. But there are some features. Overall, I think this watch is a good looking watch. I really like the finishing of the case and the bracelet. It wears very nice on the wrist. There are a couple of things, though, that I personally think they could change going into future productions. One of them, this is just me personally, I don't care for the date magnifier. I've never been fond of it. You always have to look head on to really, get the magnification. And, I just don't like anything sticking up off my crystal like that. The other thing is this uses standard friction pins, okay, for the lugs and the bracelet attachment here. But you have these, let me get into focus there, screws on the lugs, these funky looking screws, which are completely fake. They're there for a design element. I'm just somebody, I prefer if it's going to be, if you're going to have screws there, then they should be real screws and be functional. One of the other things, and I'll talk about it here in a second, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this clasp. It functions well, it is solid, it is sturdy. I do think, though, for this price, I would like to see a scissor deployant style clasp, the solid scissor deployant. I think it just looks nicer, and it looks more expensive. Now, do want to point out that this does include half links to get a better size adjustment. But one of my main issues with this watch was the use of the pin and collar system for the links. Anybody that's out there that's never used the pin and collar system, it is a PIA to remove the links. You got to be very careful. It's a lot more time consuming. Let's just say I would have shown you on camera how to remove the links and using the pin and collar system, but WatchReport.com is a family channel here on YouTube, and I would have had to edit out a lot of swear words. So, needless to say, if you are not familiar with the pin and collar system, take it to a jeweler to be sized. So in the future, I wouldn't mind seeing just regular pins, or maybe upgrade to the screw system for the lugs. Now, all that said, that's me nitpicking, as I can always do with any watch for the most part. Overall, though, I got to be honest, really did surprise me. I had no idea what to expect when this watch arrived, what the construction was going to be like, what the quality was going to be like. Overall, I have to say the quality is excellent. The loom is great. The bracelet is fantastic, with the exception of the pin and collar system, but once you get it sized, that doesn't matter. It fits great on the wrist. You have an awesome case back, and the look, it's kind of like a cross between like a high-end Seiko and a micro diver, which I don't think is a bad look. Kentex seems to be a brand that always wants to improve. They do say future productions will be using Miyota 9015 movements. And, maybe they'll take some of my suggestions to heart and change a couple of little minor things up, or anybody else's suggestions that they might have, and, improve a little bit. As it stands, I still think it's really, I don't want to say value, but I think even at the $780 price point, considering the NH35 movement, I still think it's a great watch. As I said, they do have different versions beyond the Mother of Pearl Crystal, if you don't like Mother of Pearl. I believe you can purchase Kentex watches through Amazon as well, so check that out. This has been the look at the Kentex Marineman. Leave a like or a comment here on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to the Watch Report YouTube channel, please do so. You can see the full review on WatchReport.com, where you'll see the loom shots, wrist shots, and much more. This has been Don Evans for WatchReport.com, and I'll be coming at you with another video review next week.